we're just going to keep welcoming people in and get started. So yeah, we just like to start with just some sort of like settling, gathering practice together, kind of get us all together in this bizarro Zoom space that is both a space and not a space at the same time. So yeah, to do that first, I'm just going to invite you to, and everything with me, if you haven't joined the quarterly networking meetings or something with me before, it is a challenge by choice. So it's okay if you don't want to participate in this or you want to do something else to get grounded, just a minute or two. Yeah, going to invite you to take a deep breath and just feel where your feet are. Invitation to close your eyes if you want. I'm just going to do kind of a check in your body. How are you feeling right now? And maybe an invitation to see, like, ooh, do I have any tightness or discomfort? And is there anything I could do or adjust that would make me 1% more comfortable in this moment? Anything I can do to be 1% more comfortable, more at ease? And then I'm going to invite you to take a moment and look around the space that you are in, right? So maybe look behind you. Yeah, maybe turn and notice. So I find it's interesting when I turn all the way behind me, I see what's behind me on camera often and not with my eyes, you know? Just yeah, notice what's in your space. Take a second to get yeah, present and attentive to the physical space that you're in. And then an invitation to orient to our Zoom space. Take a moment to look around the room, see who is in this room with us. Yeah, just notice who's here. Maybe sending a bit of a sense of gratitude to yourself for showing up and others for choosing to be here in this moment together. It's probably a lot that you have on your plate. It's probably a lot that you could be doing right now. And yeah, you made a choice to join and be on this quarterly networking meeting together. So yeah, I'm wanting to send some gratitude to each of you for making that choice, to myself for making that choice. And maybe you want to send some gratitude to one another as well. Right. Thanks, friends, for doing a little gathering activity. So good to see so many familiar faces and some folks I don't know. I'm really excited when there's people on that I also don't know. So welcome in. So this is our quarterly networking meeting. It's what it says on the tin. So this is part of our Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center once a quarter gathering calls. And this year we are focusing on doing a little micro practice together. So learning just like a little micro skill and then going into regional breakout rooms and talking about the skill, talking about anything that's on our mind, connecting with people in our regions. We'll have some breakout rooms. So what is on the docket, what's on our agenda for today is we're going to do, we're going to talk about feedback, mostly feedback giving. There's lots to say about feedback generally. We're going to do a little bit of learning and micro practice around feedback giving today. And then I'll put some questions in the chat for you all to consider in a breakout room. We'll come back together. We'll share some upcoming events, and that'll be our time. That's the plan. Yeah. So first, I want to start with like a quick little opportunity to share in the chat again, and we're going to do this if you're up for it. Waterfall style. I started to blend my words there. By that, I mean, I want you to put your answer in the chat, but not hit enter until I do a little countdown. I'm going to do like a 3, 2, 1, enter. And then we'll get all the responses at once. So that gives us an opportunity to settle and think about what our answer is before reading others. And it also can be a little fun to see all the responses come. So my question is, how do you feel when someone says, can I give you some feedback? How do you feel when someone says, "Can I give you some feedback?" And I'm going to put that question in the chat. And again, invitation for you to type, but not hit enter yet. I'm going to name a couple options and you can use whatever word comes up for you. Excited, dread, anxiety, defensive, neutral, something else. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet for 30 seconds while you think about your response and type without hitting enter. Okay, gonna do a little countdown here. On one, we're gonna hit enter. So 3, 2, 1, enter. Hmm. Yeah. So we've got some curious, some anxiety, apprehension, anxious. Hmm. I'm just gonna read the shorter ones first because it's easier for my eyes to track. Excited, anxiety, tension, bit of apprehension, try to be open. Navigating unsolicited opinions. Yeah, yeah. Depends on who is asking. Yeah. Anxiety, all caps. Yeah. 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 So whatever comes up for you is like normal and okay, right? And I think we all have different histories, different experiences, both giving and receiving feedback. It's likely that more than once in our lives we've had the experience of someone saying, "I want to give you some feedback," and it really meant something that felt maybe like punishment, or could have felt like like some angry energy, or some conflict, right? So feedback can often um, come up as conflict. And in fact, our team was chatting, the TINRC team was chatting before everyone was in, and I was talking about how often um, conflict happens because there's feedback that hasn't been or received, and it just sort of builds because we struggle to share feedback often. So invitation for us to just think about feedback as information. It's sometimes a stretch, but I'm just going to invite us into thinking about that a little bit. We can have feedback that is like really generous and beautiful and is actually feedback around how someone is experiencing us in a really positive way, right? But we don't often think about it as feedback, or it might not be phrased that way. And we can also have feedback that feels like it is, like maybe more painful or hard to hear, and everything in between. Okay, so one of the reasons we wanted to talk about feedback is to think about feedback in the context of trauma responsive practices, and to think about how do we attend to the fact that many of us maybe have experienced a lot of like pain or hardship or harm in conversations that were framed as feedback, or just might be operating at a nervous system that's more activated than we would like all the time, right? So kind of attending to this like sympathetic activation that we might have online. Um, so part of the reason that feedback can kind of or just the word feedback can trigger this sort of activation in us, right? Is some of what I've talked about. We might have had bad experiences with it in the past, but what can come up for us is this idea of like, ooh, this is going to threaten my status in a group, maybe, or it might be threatening my autonomy, right? If someone with more power than me is going to give me feedback, I might worry that I'm not going to have choice or control over what I do with the feedback, that it will mean a demand for change, for instance, right? And probably many, many other reasons that we might get that activation. So The goal with this sort of like micro practice to support some trauma responsive feedback is to um, yeah, just take into account that we might have some nervous system activation, both as someone who wants to give feedback and as someone who has is might be receiving our feedback. So the micro practice I'm going to share, it comes from multiple sources. One, if you are familiar with motivational interviewing, you might be familiar with the structure of elicit, provide, elicit, right? And in a lot of conflict work, there's often a framing, or in feedback work generally, there's often a framing of ask, give, ask. You'll see a very similar sort of pattern. So the first thing we want to do is ask for permission, right? And the permission might be something that is just about time. And in general, I recommend that you, in the first ask, you don't necessarily say the word feedback, not to be tricky, but because it can't, that word, just like I have conflict with you, I'm angry at you, I have feedback for you. There's a high likelihood that that word will increase some activation for others. It's not a hard don't say it. It's just a recommendation that I generally give. So what I might say is something like, I have something I'm wanting to talk with you about. Would it be all right if I talk with you about that right now? Or would it be okay if we chat? Or would it be okay if we find some time to chat? So your first question is consent seeking, right? Because this is going to support folks having some autonomy and choice around when they talk, or even queuing them up to know we're about to talk about something that might not be neutral feeling to me, to you, the receiver, whoever. It's good to note that people often will not say no to that consent question, right? And especially good to know if you're someone that has more power structurally, perhaps like in your organization, and you ask that consent question, it's even less likely that someone will say no. And I know my friend Cheryl, who's here, has often heard me say, if someone doesn't have the power or doesn't feel they have the power to say no to you, you don't actually know what their yes means in that moment, right? So just to like proceed with care, notice body language, notice tone, and you can still proceed even if you're not sure. You might even say like, "Ooh, I'm a little bit worried. It's not a great time. Maybe I'll just say the topic, and then you can see if maybe you want to talk later or do something else." So first, we're asking for permission or consent. Then we want to offer the information. What is the information we have? Now, if you were at the last quarterly networking meeting, you know we spent some time talking about interpretations and judgment versus information, behavioral, things that we've noticed, observations. So we want to stay as close to information as we can, and as far from interpretation and judgment as we can, right? And often things are sort of on a spectrum here. And if we just are struggling to find a way to say it without interpretation or judgment, it can help if we just say, "This is my interpretation of it," right? Because if we say, "This is my interpretation," then we're not giving the information as though it is um, fact that we think anyone in the world would agree with, right? So um, yeah, so we're gonna ask permission. We're gonna get look for consent. We're gonna offer that information, and then we're gonna ask for their perspective. What are you making of what I just said? How does this land for you? What do you think? What's your perspective? There's a lot of different ways that you can ask this question, and how you ask it depends on you and how you normally speak, right? Um, so it's very normal for me to say, "How does that land for you?" And that might feel totally stilted and weird for other people, right? It depends on your own natural way of speaking. Okay, so I'm going to go through these one more time, and then Elizabeth is kind enough to do a demo with me. So where I'm going to give her some fake feedback, just so we can see the model. So first, we're going to ask for consent. We're going to ask for permission. We're going to offer that information as close to a sort of piece of information and not judgment as possible. And then we're going to ask, like, kind of just a check-in question: what's going on for this person that I'm giving this feedback to? So I'm just gonna spotlight Elizabeth and I so that you can see us. Okay. Can I maybe get a thumbs up, Margaret, if we are spotlit? Thank you. I almost said spotlighted. Anyway, great. So I'm leaving aside my question about whether or not spotlighted is okay. All right. So Elizabeth, in a second, we're gonna have this role played conversation. Again, this is not a real scenario, so I'm gonna be embellishing a couple details as we go. Um, yeah. All right. Anything you want to say before we get started, Elizabeth?
No, I'm
Okay.
ready.
All right. Great. Um, hey, Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm doing good, Gwen. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. I was wondering if you had a minute to talk about something from the meeting earlier today. Would
Oh
now
yeah,
be
I
an
have
okay
some.
time?
Yeah, I have some time now. That would be great.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Um, yeah, so I know we were like at this big meeting where there were like multiple teams there, and you were presenting on the project that I had worked on with some others. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so something that happened while you were presenting is you gave me credit, which was like really sweet. And I actually had worked on that project with four other people.
Hmm.
I wasn't sure if did you know that I had worked on it with four other people?
I wasn't really 100% sure. Like I knew you were the lead, but I didn't know who else. I wasn't really tracking who else worked on it.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for thanks for saying that. I just was I was feeling a little worried in that moment that I was kind of like getting credit for something that was actually like a whole team effort. Yeah. And yeah, I'm wondering if there's a way that like you or me or both of us could sort of help give credit to the whole team and not just me.
No, thanks for bringing it to my attention. Totally want to give credit to the whole team. So, yeah, I'd welcome your ideas that you might have, how we could do that. We could send a follow-up email kind of with the
Oh
summary of the
yeah.
meeting and then maybe acknowledge everyone then. And I can kind of just recognize that I wasn't aware and make sure I acknowledge the whole team.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think that would work really well. Thanks. Okay, I'm gonna
Great.
time us out.
Hmm.
So that was just a quick uh a quick little demo, and you'll see we did multiple kinds of questions and check-ins, right? So I asked if we could talk. I kind of asked, like, do you know what I'm talking about when I'm referencing the meeting? And then I asked, yeah, if she was aware, right? So I gave her information. I asked if she knew about the information because it could be that she didn't know, right? And she didn't really know. She wasn't really tracking. I was the one that had communicated something with her. So it made sense to her that she would just give me credit. And then there was another ask after that that was around like collaborating on a solution, right? So I picked this scenario because it's very low stakes. There's not a conflict involved. There's some information actually that I want to share. Um, so I'm going to remove our spotlight so that we can see others. Thank you, Elizabeth. Round of applause to Elizabeth for doing a quick role play. Hi, all. Thanks for returning. Apologies for probably getting interrupted or perhaps having your listening interrupted. All of those rude things that happen in these Zoom spaces. Yeah, and thanks for coming back. So we're close to time. We won't do a debrief on Mike, but if there is some like pearl of wisdom or something yeah, that you want to share from your breakout room, just speaking for yourself, your own experience, opportunity to do that in the chat. And in the meantime, I'm going to share just one or two slides. And Josh is also going to put a couple links in the chat. So yeah, super grateful to you all for joining today, for talking about feedback with us, for considering it together. I know it's a really short practice, right? And there's so much nuance to feedback. And so I'm sure there's lots of, yeah, good conversation that came up. And I'm always happy to chat more. I kind of think about this as just a little toe dip into something that's quite complex. So yeah, if there's any request to talk about this a little bit more, I'm really happy to do so. So, want to name a couple of upcoming events. So, our next quarterly networking meeting is going to be July 29th, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Online. And then we've got a couple of instructors editions coming up in the future that just want to put on your radar in case you're interested. So this is to become a trainer for tending the roots. So we've got July 9, 10, and then the third date for all of these are all online. 9, 10, and 18 is in Watertown. And then October 21st, 22nd, and 29 in Liverpool in the Syracuse region. And then the November dates are all virtual, and there's multiple of them because we break it up to a few hours. So it would be like 9 to noon on November 3rd through the 6th, and then the 13th is all day. So the best way to stay up to date about when the instructors edition application opens, the quarterly networking meeting, our Join the Journey conference in Saratoga Springs in September is to sign up for our newsletter. So want to encourage folks to do that if you have an opportunity. So we'll put the newsletter link in our chat, and as well as a few of these links. So yeah, want to encourage folks to join our directory, get listed on our directory, check that out. Join a breath, body, mind session. We've got the Pathways podcast. There's the newsletter, lots of other ways to stay involved. And if you have an idea for staying involved or a way to connect that we haven't listed here, yeah, really welcome that feedback, those ideas. Yeah, grateful for you all. Thank you so much for joining this morning. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I hope to see you online or in person sometime soon. Be well. Bye, friends.